Senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino, top banking analyst Dick Bove of Rafferty Capital Markets. Dick, let me get to you first. Ever since Steve Mnuchin said that to Maria Bartiromo, we've seen Fannie and Freddie stock value go up. Why is that? Are people wanting it to be privatized? Want these services to be privatized? And should they?
Oh, yeah, there's no doubt about the fact that there's a strong desire to see the companies privatized, and there's a strong belief that if they were privatized, the companies would be making a significant amount of money, which would result in a much higher stock price than it is at the present time. You know, should they be privatized? I think so. I think that, you know, basically the government has got to get out of, if you will, guaranteeing mortgages and put the housing industry more on a private sector funded basis. Right now, it appears, depending upon whose statistics you take, 70 to 80% of all the mortgages in the United States are tied to the U.S. government in one fashion or the other, and that has to stop.
Charlie?
Well, the question I would have for Dick, there's privatization and there's privatization. Suppose there's a privatization, as most conservatives like Jeb Henseling would probably say if you put him on the spot, where there's no government backstop. You know, Fannie Mae's debt, Freddie Mac's debt and Fannie Mae's debt is not backed up by the implicit support of the federal government. Therefore, they have to borrow at market rates, not at market rates. Like they have to borrow like a corporation that sells, you know, mortgages. If that happens, what do you think the stock goes, and is that a sustainable business model?
Well, I don't think that they're going to be borrowing very much once they privatize. In other words, I think that what we're looking at is, number one, that the government is going to be stuck with maintaining the guarantees on what it has already guaranteed. And again, it's an implicit, not explicit guarantee, as you mentioned, Charlie. But number two, I think that what Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac would become is more conduits in order to, you know, move mortgages into the secondary market with some sort of insurance guarantee. And they don't have to borrow money to do that. All they have to do is find buyers, if you will, of the mortgages which they're guaranteeing.
Who would provide the insurance?
Oh, I think that the, if you will, originators of the mortgage would have to pay a commitment fee to Fannie or Freddie, just as they do today, in order to get the guarantees put in place.
So the bank pays would pay the commitment. I mean, is AMBAC, who guarantees the mortgage? Is, I guess, the question.
Well, I mean, the banks are paying the commitment fee now, right? In other words, if you bring a package
from the federal government, I'm trying to think what makes the business model work minus the federal government, because people think that this thing's going to make a ton of money. It's making a ton of money now because it's essentially borrowing at very cheap rates. It has the backup of the federal government. It has very little financing costs because of that. Now, if you take out the government and it's just some sort of a conduit business, I mean, is there a business there? Is there, you know, I just want to know if when this thing changes without the government, why would anybody buy this stock?
Well, because you mentioned the company AMBAC, which might not be the best example, but what you're talking about is insurance on financial products. And if the insurance on the financial products is set at an appropriate price, it does two things. Number one, it allows if you will, secondary market to buy the product, right, which is being securitized and sold. It allows the company which is doing the function as the conduit to make a profit as long as it insures its products properly.
But even that doesn't make sense, because, just help me out here, and this is why I don't buy the rise in the stock,
right, whether
it's, you know, people know what they're talking about here. AMBAC, why would they take 30-year risk on a mortgage? Banks don't want to do that. The federal government, that's why the federal government's in it. Why would AMBAC do it? They won't.
Well, we're not suggesting that AMBAC. Yeah, no one's suggesting that AMBAC would do it.
Who's going to insure it?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac.
How would they insure it?
Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac are paid a commitment fee at the present time to put a guarantee on these, if you will, packages which they sell into the secondary market. They do that at the present time, and at fairly low rates because of the implicit government guarantee.
So you really
if the government steps aside, well, that's what they're doing now.
No, but they have the government back, but they're doing it as the government.
Yeah, no, what they're doing at the present time, they've hired, if you will, about a year and a half ago, a gentleman who is merging, if you will, the two companies' offerings together, and who is selling packages of mortgages, you know, without guarantees into the private market. In other words, it is desirable to own mortgages. I mean, we went through this crisis, obviously,
30-year mortgages?
in 2000.
Sorry, we have run out of time, and obviously this isn't going to be solved in the next
I don't know who wants
minute.
to, I don't know who wants to own a 30-year mortgage. Banks don't.
All right, we'll leave it there. Dick Bove, thank you as always. Charlie, thanks for being here.